Hmm. Hey, we're getting some people rolling on. Hey, Mr. Anthony. Can you hear me, sir? Give me a thumbs up. Yeah, cool. We got Lori rolling on too. Fun day. I like that picture behind you, Mr. Anthony. What is that? See if I can unmute you. Oh no. Do you know how to unmute yourself, Anthony? Oh, there we go. Getting some people rolling on. We got some Bill, we got Linda and Rob. There we go. Yeah, we just like to ask questions every now and then. What's the picture to your back right?
Grace.
Grace? There you go.
There's a man saying grace over a loaf of bread.
Oh, that's cool. Well, that's cool. Cool. Well, exciting day. Today is Wednesday, Wellness Wednesday. Really excited for sleep tonight. Yeah, we got a lot of topics. So I've gone over this talk before, and so depending on who all gets in the room, I'll modify it a little bit just to keep it fresh for everybody. But sleep is really important, as we all know, and it affects our health a lot, as you can imagine. If we're not getting a lot of sleep, I don't know if we remember. I have a 3-year-old. I think everyone in the room right now has had kids before, and so they can interrupt sleep, and I think we can remember the effects of that on our health. And so we're preparing to have another little one, and so we're getting ready to enter in a new challenge in that front again with 2 little ones. So but we'll be talking about various strategies tonight. Also, just a couple more things while we're getting ready to go. We are getting ready to launch. We're getting ready to launch a new program. So I'm going to show you my screen, and this isn't live on our webpage yet, but this is really close. So I just have to finish a couple more things, put some actual normal language in here. But what this is this is our 5 pillars of program. So we've talked about a lot of different things along the way during these Zooms and then in our previous presentations, and not everybody can be here for it all. And so this is us talking in 3-minute chunks, 10-minute chunks. I think the longest one's like 11 minutes. We do have some of our old Zooms in here, so they're longer. But this is us. It's us talking about chiropractic. This is us in exercises. So you just get to click on them and you just get to watch an exercise I ask you to do. And so I'm right in your house and I show you the exercise I want you to do, and then you can just do them along with you. So everything from how to retrain your posture, how to train your shoulders, all kinds of stuff, low back protocols, what to do when you're in really acute pain, all kinds of stuff. Dr. Ashley has some pregnancy stuff in here as well too. And so for all our pregnant mamas, we just had a mom in today. She has a 1.5 weeks old. And so, yeah, we love taking care of new life and getting things back into the right position right away so we can thrive. But yeah, so that's really exciting for us, but we are filling up in our room here. So I'm going to dive into our content. And so let's talk about sleep. Cool. And let me make sure you can still see my right screen. And so I'm going to transition in and out. Hey, Mr. Zach. I'm going to transition in and out of screen sharing, and then we'll go into my presentation at the start. So let's dive right in. Can everyone hear me okay? Good. Yes. And then you can see my screen? Yep. Okay, good. Okay, so sleep, getting those Z's. Just my mission right off the bat here. I'm not out to try to give you all the finer details of, hey, do this trick or that trick to get you to sleep or to improve your health. My primary goal is to get us to understand really our own bodies. Because once we understand our natural design, we can start to honor that design. And when we honor our design of our body, when we follow the physiologic laws, the anatomic laws, the neurologic laws that govern our bodies, natural things will start to happen. Those include sleep. Those include health. Health comes from the inside out. It's not something we take and put into our bodies, because if we had a piece of steak on the table here and we cut into it, we could give it all the medicine, all the best surgery, all the stitching, everything we could possibly do, but that steak is no longer alive. And so it is not going to be able to do what it needs to do to recover. We are living beings. And so if we honor that living intelligence, we are going to be able to get to cooler spaces. And so that's really cool. So now let's do that with sleep. How do we honor our natural design to improve our health and our sleep? And so these are the things that I'm going to promise you tonight, that you're going to get this understanding. You're going to see what are the most common barriers to good sleep. Like, what are we doing wrong that's breaking our physiologic laws, that's interrupting our sleep? What is the best sleep position for you? This is a question I get all the time as a chiropractor. Hey doc, I slept wrong. What position do I need to sleep in to not have this hurt anymore or sleep through the night? I get it at least once a day. Someone always says, oh, I got a crick in my neck. I slept on my pillow wrong. That is one of the most common misconceptions there is about spines and sleep. And so I'm going to address some of that as well too. And then kind of a principle that I've came across recently that really makes a lot of sense is why our pursuit of comfort has led us wrong. Why, when we seek comfort and more comfort, do we continue to get more uncomfortable? And then some fun things at the end. These are kind of just very practical tips and tricks that I use in my own life. Just understanding the brain. Again, it's not so much, oh, do this and sleep better. It's just learning how to just follow physiologic laws, and this will help our sleep better, and a couple other things as well too. So diving right into the barriers. All right, so if you do have questions, I can't see everybody on my screen right now, so you'll just have to wave and hopefully I'll get to you or something like that. But I'm going to go through this material really quickly, and I did email everybody a guide. If you have any specific questions about the guide, I won't be covering all of it. I'll be covering the highlights. So if you didn't get that guide, if you're not on our patient email list, just let us know and I can get that out to you. But most common barriers to sleep: normal blood sugar, low oxygen, bad timing with light exposure, either not enough sunlight or too much bad light, toxins in our system, time, scheduling, routine, EMF, electromagnetic frequency, and stress. And so let's dive into each one of these. Okay. So first off, blood sugar. Sleeping is designed for essentially a fasting state. What sleep is a time for our bodies to recover. It's really a detoxifying time. It's a lot of time, like, our digestion is regenerating itself. Our brain is getting rid of a lot of toxins. The lymph is pulling things away from our body. It's not a time to be digesting food. And so we really don't want to be eating things right before we go to bed. It's pretty taxing on the energy producers in our body, the mitochondria in our cells, to be producing blood sugar, processing blood sugar all the time. And so what we want to do here instead is actually, we want to have our dinner and then have a fasted time and then get into sleep. And so I see a couple of you snacking over here in the screens, which is really fine. I'm guilty about this too. Judah loves cereal. As much as I don't like cereal, it's not that nutritious for us, he loves it. And I think when we're all kids, we had a late night bowl of cereal every now and then. And so that's happened a couple times, but we don't want to let it become a routine. Because if we build into our routine late night snacks, our blood sugar pattern will start to adapt to that. But the problem is we're going to have a blood sugar spike in our sleep, but then it's also going to fall back down. That blood sugar falling back down is stressful for your body, because pretty much every time your blood sugar goes up, it's going to do this and then kind of level back out. So when it's doing that dip, that's a source of stress for your body. And when the body's under stress, it starts to wake up. And so this is where we got to do some of the hard work to normalize our blood sugars. And so if you're in some of this pre-diabetic path, we have some work ahead of us. But there's a lot of good things we can do, natural tools that we can do to help regulate this. One of the things I love about chiropractic is it helps de-stress the body, which naturally starts to regulate blood sugars, which is really cool. And it's one of the things that's helpful for your sleep. Next one, oxygen levels. And so I have this cool gadget in my practice that I can put on your finger, and it can tell me how much blood oxygen you have, your oxygen saturation. And so I frequently see people that I'm caring for in the low 90s when they're awake. And so that's plenty of oxygen to be motoring around on. It's not great, but at the same time, you're not going to be in like immediate life-threatening situations. But the problem is when people are operating at this level, this lower level of oxygen, is that when we sleep, it falls even lower. And when it falls too low, the brain gets hypoxic, and then it starts producing a lot of toxins, and it's not good. And then we get more into apnea situations. So now, how do we get into this position? Well, when the upper brain stem gets under stress all the time, the autonomic kind of level of our brain, its drive, its energy starts to fall. And this will start to lower our ability to breathe well. And so that's one of the most common things we see. Now, the things that patients will be telling me about is snoring and apnea. These are our two big ones. I see a couple of guys looking around out there. Very, very common problem. And hey, this happens with pregnant mamas too. I've heard it a couple times from the person beside me. But this is where we're getting some other issues in around the throat, the nose. This is commonly caused by mouth breathing and sleep position. And again, combined with that low tone coming out of our kind of vital center in our brainstem. So when we're in chronic stress, that center starts to get shut down. We start to have a reduced kind of breathing strength, if you will. Now we start to lie more on our back, which is the most common position. And it's even told to us by a lot of different people. We're going to get into sleep positions a little bit later. I'm not saying back sleeping is necessarily bad, but it does promote sleeping and breathing out of the mouth. And then if we mouth breathe during the day, we're going to most likely breathe through the mouth at night as well too. And so the problem with sleeping on your back and then letting that mouth breathing happen is you're taking in a bunch of unfiltered air, and that's going to get contaminants into your body, and then your throat's going to start to restrict to try to filter, which isn't a good thing. But when the tone of the jaw starts to slack as we sleep, it falls down and back. And then our tongue is a muscle as well too. And so when it gets weak and when it loses its tone at night, it falls down and back too. Now we're combining a slack jaw with gravity pulling it down, and then our tongue falling back into our throat. And then if we combine that with throat constriction because it's trying to filter air, or throat weakness because it doesn't have enough kind of nerve input coming from the upper neck, now we have obstructive sleep apnea or snoring. Both of these are going to lead to hypoxic conditions in the body. And this is where people are really going to struggle with sleeping in general. They're going to wake up, or B, they're not going to feel very rested in the morning. And so we were going to talk about some general strategies about sleep in general. Some of these will address these conditions, mostly in some of the kind of other topics. We'll talk about fitness, chiropractic, and sleep position that helps the apnea. So what do we got next? We got light. So we are designed to sleep at night. Yes, some of us are forced out of this pattern just due to shift work, that sort of stuff. But human beings in general are designed to sleep at night. Melatonin is a hormone that helps regulate sleep cycles. But really what it is it's not so much a sleep cycle hormone, it's a daylight hormone and nighttime hormone. So as we're kind of exposed to light, melatonin can fall. But as we're starting, that light's supposed to fall, the melatonin will start to rise as light diminishes or it gets dark. And so when we're kind of off our cycles and exposed to light all the time, or not exposed to sunlight enough, our melatonin cycles will get not regular, and then our sleep drive will be diminished. And so everywhere else in the world, pretty much, melatonin is very restricted. in the States, we can buy melatonin over the counter. So we can start to influence this cycle, but that gets dangerous in itself, because if we start taking melatonin externally, our own ability to regulate and produce melatonin is diminished. And so we want to be careful with this. Rather than taking melatonin, what we can do instead is to start to regulate our light exposure. And so there is a concept called solar gazing. Solar gazing is really powerful. It's where we're looking at the sun first thing in the morning. Sunrises are really beautiful things. So are sunsets. They're not only beautiful to watch, they're also really important for our brain. It helps our pineal gland and just our brain really set the pattern to daylight. And so if we're able to see these things, these beautiful things that we've been given to watch every day, we just made a garden, and so I have to get out in the garden and water it because there's like fresh seeds. And so this morning I was just looking at the sun. It was really, really cool. And it was before Jude was up, so it was nice and quiet. But it's just really amazing if you start your day with a sunrise, how it can just change your perspective. Things become a little bit more normal. So we're in a crazy season right now, but when we get to watch that sunrise every day, it's just like, hey, the sun's coming up. Literally, this is gonna be a good day. So get out there and look at the sun. Most important time of sun exposure, just in general, is in the first half of the day. So the sun emits a huge wavelength, or broad spectrum of wavelengths, versus kind of the lights, like in our room, they emit a relatively narrow band. And so the broad spectrum of light stimulates us differently than the lights in our room or the fluorescent lights in our office. And so even though we're exposed to light all the time, it's not necessarily driving the same level of light exposure that we need during the day. But then also conversely, we're exposing ourselves to this low level light all the time. And so it's not enough to really drive wakefulness, but it prevents sleepiness. And so pretty much after 8 o'clock, we're starting to dim the lights just to give your body time to wind down. We actually did this the other day. It was a lot of fun. We just lit a bunch of candles all around our house, and we just kind of sat on the floor. This is really geeky, by the way. I love movement, and I love moving my body in different ways and just learning how joints move and things like that. And I'm reading this book right now that talks about different things in that regard. And so Ashley and I and Judah were just sitting on the floor playing with kind of our feet and joints in candlelight and just chatting about stuff. And it was its own source of entertainment. But it was really cool because it wound our bodies down. When we're exposing ourselves to the light, it wakes ourselves up, particularly blue light. And so all our devices, all our phones have a blue backlight. So when the sky is blue and bright outside, what does that mean for our brain? It means daylight, right? And so our brain is programmed when it sees blue light, it is saying it's awake, it's time to go. But we're looking at these devices all the time, frequently right before we go to bed. We're like kind of cruising on the couch, just trying to do this, but we're looking at a blue light blasting into our eyes at a very high frequency that's waking our brain up. And so this is going to depress our melatonin because our brain's being told that it's awake. And so this is one of the biggest reasons why we're breaking the design of our physiology and why so many people struggle with sleep. And so that is light. Let's see if there's any. Oh, I already love candles. You talked about sunrise. Yeah, we got all our light points. Okay, toxins. So toxins is a common one that we're exposed to. So unfortunately, a lot of prescription drugs have side effects that regulate sleep. And so I can't obviously talk over the whole spectrum of drugs that we can be on, but if you're struggling with sleep and you've been struggling that way for a long time, take a look at everything you're taking. Talk to your pharmacist, talk to somebody who is familiar with your story and see what's going on here. What's the plan for all these things? So are you just going to take all these things indefinitely forever, or is there some sort of natural solution that we can start to do to decrease our dependence on these? Because the chemical interactions of these and then the side effects of a lot of these medications affect our sleep. And so that's something to take a look at. The next most common ones that are really strong for sleep are alcohol and caffeine. So two different ends of the scale here. Caffeine diminishes kind of that sleep weight. What it does is it gives us an alertness, but then it wears off. And so it's really just delaying the clock of sleep. And so when that caffeine starts to fall, we get into that sleep state. But a lot of times we'll be having these caffeinated drinks later in the day, and it's pushing, some people are really sensitive to this, it's pushing our sleep pretty far. Okay. But alcohol is another common one. Alcohol does promote what I would call unconsciousness. It doesn't promote sleep, but it promotes unconsciousness. And so there's a difference there. Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about brain waves a little later, but the effect with alcohol that's so detrimental to sleep is that unconsciousness isn't the same as actual recovery sleep. And so you can have kind of quote unquote sleep, but then you wake up in the morning and not feel rested. But then there's a really strong rebound effect with alcohol. So when we go through alcohol, our body starts processing this toxin in our body. It's like our liver's kind of breaking it down. And what tends to happen as soon as we're kind of done processing, and I know this is the case for me, and it's probably the case for a lot of other people, is back in college when I used to probably partake a little bit too much of this substance every now and then, what I would do is I would kind of sleep that night, but I'd wake up in the middle of the night like just boom, I'd be wide awake. And I came across what was happening later in life, kind of learning about sleep. And what was going on there is when your body is finished processing the alcohol, the suppressive effect is diminished and eliminated. And then your body has a rebound effect that it's been trying to wake you up, because it's kind of dangerous just to sit around unconscious. We're not going to be able to do things very well at that point. Like someone's knocking on our door or someone's breaking in our house, we can't respond. So our body's trying to wake us up out of this state. And so when we process that alcohol, we get this rebound effect of alertness. And so we wake up with a very kind of strong. And so this can happen with even just 1 or 2 drinks. It's not just excessive drinking. The next one would be time. So this is just about routine. So it's just getting into a better routine with time. So the sweet spot for sleep is around 7 hours, 7 to 8 hours, as that's what the research recommends for most adults. Too little causes problems, too much causes problems. And so we want to get into a routine where we're getting into sleep around kind of the 10 o'clock time frame, because then it puts us in a good window to wake up by. There is some variance on this, and so we want to find kind of what's natural for us. Our brain can adapt to less sleep, but what happens is it's kind of adapting to get by. It's not, effects will accumulate. So you can maintain function on less sleep. As parents, we can all learn to do that. There's other people that we just kind of learn to function this way too. But there is a cumulative effects over time. So we want to get into a good routine, and our sleep wake cycle, we want to get up and go to sleep at the same time pretty repetitively. So just finding a good routine for that. Next one, most common barrier, EMF. People don't realize this a lot, but we are electromagnetic beings. Our body is being controlled with electrical currents flowing through our body. When females relate to this a lot, if there's a strange, creepy guy that walks into the room, you feel it right away. It's just like, oh, I feel off. I don't like the guy. I'm going to go over here. The reason why that is because his field, electromagnetic field, touched your field. And so we're all aware of, if we're in the room and it's totally dark, if there's somebody else in the room, we can sense that. And it's not just through hearing. It's because we're electromagnetic beings. We are sensitive to more things than we realize. And so we want to look at the devices we have in our rooms. Again, coming back to cell phones. We don't really want these in our rooms. We don't want our Wi-Fi broadcasting at night if we can help it. We don't want to have a bunch of electrical devices in our rooms, because it's going to impact particularly our pineal gland again, and it's going to start to wake us up. And so we want to look at kind of the electronics in our life and start to reduce that kind of after that 8 o'clock time frame again. And that's why we're maybe ending in a couple minutes after I finish all my stuff. All right. Last one, barrier stress-wise. So humans, we carry stress. It's one of kind of the really weird things about our brain is we can induce stress in our lives very easily, and we can imagine stressful events. And when the body is in a state of stress, it does not want to sleep because it perceives danger. Again, one of the best things I love about chiropractic is it helps regulate this. It helps break the stress cycle in our brain, because when we are in constant fight or flight, is it safe to go to sleep if you feel that there's a potential threat in your immediate surroundings? No. So when the way the human brain works is it doesn't delineate between types of stress. And so if you have a really stressful day at work, or if you get in a fight with a coworker or a friend on the phone and you try to go to sleep, it just doesn't work that good because your body's in a state of stress. And so we got to learn to calm down. All right, so those are all the most common barriers. Now let's go into, let me share my screen again. And so now let's go to, see if I, yep, position. So is stomach sleeping bad? What about side sleeping, back sleeping, or all over sleeping? All right, so I have to kind of cruise through these. Stomach sleeping has been given kind of a bad rap. If you look at the rest of the animals in this world, the majority of them are going to be found sleeping on their stomachs. So why has stomach sleeping been given such a bad rap for humans? Well, in our culture, North America, US and Canada, we sleep on pretty soft mattresses. Unlike the rest of the world, we pursue comfort a lot in our culture, and soft mattresses leads to that. And so when we have a soft mattress and we sleep on our stomach, we get a sag effect. And if we combine this with some deconditioning with our core, if our spine started to break down, we have some arthritis in our neck or in our low back to an excessive degree, sleeping on your stomach will irritate these things. And so it's not that sleeping on your stomach is necessarily bad. It's that our bodies have become too weak to sleep on our stomach safely. In fact, as a chiropractor, a neurologically based chiropractor like I am, if your spine is able to, if you're strong enough and if you're fit enough, I prefer you to sleep on your stomach. But as soon as there's arthritis in your low back and your core can no longer stabilize your tummy over the evening, or you don't have enough turning in your neck, it's now not the best position for you. I'm not saying that we can't work towards it, but at the same time, it's not a priority for me anymore. And so side sleeping and then back sleeping gets to be more prevalent. So side sleeping, we want to be so for stomach sleeping, if you are a stomach sleeper, we want to be nice and firm on our mattress, okay? Now to side sleeping, it's going to be more medium, okay? Because we don't want too much pressure points on our shoulder and on our hip. And the problem with side sleeping is if we have too much pressure on these joints. But then next is if our neck gets jacked over like this, or up like that, or up and back. And so we want a pillow that kind of supports this. We don't want that fancy pillow that has a contour, because then we'll fall into it and it won't do very good for us. So if you're a side sleeper, that's okay. Just make sure you have a good pillow. And you're most likely going to fall into more of a pure or a side back or a side stomach. And it is really helpful to have something in between your knees to stabilize your hips. So back sleeping, this is going to be the position I recommend for if you have spinal conditions. So if you have a bad low back or if you have a bad neck. The problem with back sleeping, though, is you don't want the pillow underneath just your head. You want it under kind of your whole upper back and head. Because if we get into this position, jam forward all night long, and we're lying on our back, that's going to promote constriction in our airway, which is going to go into the snoring problem. But also that's going to create a lot of slack in our jaw and pull it down. And so they have the special pillows that have the contour for back sleeping so that your head falls into something. And so that's, again, a softer mattress. So stomach is firm, back is soft, medium is side sleeping in the middle. The pillow wise, we don't want a big pillow jamming our head forward on our back. We do want a big pillow for kind of our head for side sleeping, and stomach sleeping, minimal to no pillow. And so those are my kind of all over sleep positions. And again, this isn't a one size fits all. So I wish I could give a universal answer, but I can't. And so if you have specifics about your sleep setup, just let me know and I can help you with that. Now, all over sleeper. This would be actually really good. One of the things I was coming across of, we got about 10 minutes left, just FYI. Stomachs or all over sleeper. In our pursuit of comfort, we've tried to find a comfortable position to maintain one position for a long period of time. When we maintain one static position for a long period of time, we tend to not move around. We don't flex our muscles. We don't move our joints. This is what wears through certain structures faster. If we're able to move in a variety of positions, not to the point of restlessness, but at the same time, if we're able to move around a little bit, this gives areas of our body breaks. Even if it's just small movements, it gives areas of our body breaks from the one static position. And so this is why I had on the flyer for this, why sleeping on the floor might not be an awful thing. I was reading a book, and it's all about movement right now, and it was talking about how in our pursuit of comfort, we've chased this perfect sleep position, but then as soon as we leave that position in any form, we are uncomfortable, can't sleep, or have pain as a result. And this mom, who's the mom who wrote this book, she noticed when she was sleeping in her bed, in her one child's bed and another child's bed on the floor at a sleepover, when she started to do this a little bit more, she started to gain the ability to sleep anywhere and everywhere with comfort again. And she started to realize, like, hey, maybe sleeping in my perfect ideal bed isn't the best idea for me. And so just a thought to play with. Again, I do want to make sure you're sleeping well, and so I don't want to make you purposely uncomfortable. But if we're able to, if we have a nice, strong, healthy spine, it is good to vary the position up a little bit from time to time. Okay, cool. And so let's go back to my slides here. So all over sleeper. Now in our pursuit, we've become uncomfortable. So I started to talk about this a little bit already. And so this doesn't just apply just to sleep, it applies to everything. And so if we had a joint that was hurt and we put a brace on it and we just wore that brace all the time, would that joint ever become strong? No, it wouldn't. So we want to purposely challenge in our bodies. We don't want to go into the point of danger, but at the same time, we do want to introduce challenge and uncomfortableness into our life. And so if we do that during the day with certain fitness, with certain mobility, with different types of activity, again, in our movement life, in our activity and exercise, we tend to get very kind of stuck in a groove. We tend to do cardio, or I do yoga, or I do lifting. But if we do different things, our body gets strong in multiple ways. How this applies to sleep is it starts to empower us to be adaptable to positions. And so when we sit in a static position all day long in our nice comfy chair at work, and then we sit in our really comfy car that we just got adapted to us, and we never really vary side to side, or we don't really do, or maybe I get on my cardio or my elliptical and I'm in this plane and I'm always in one plane. I don't use a variety of movement. And then when I go to lie down and I'm not in that position anymore, now I'm uncomfortable. And so we want to choose areas of our life to be uncomfortable, because that is going to improve overall health. And so that's pretty cool. All right, so now some fun stuff, brain hacks that I've learned along the way. And so I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint again and talk about a couple things. So people talk about, so how many more minutes I got? Sorry, I got a little long-winded on a couple of my barriers. I apologize. I might have to shorten this a little bit. But so brain hacks for sleep. And so a lot of sleep talks about brain waves. And sleep is a really cool thing because it helps us regenerate our bodies, and it helps our brain detoxify and a couple different things. And so when we're awake, we're in this beta gamma state. A lot of times it's in the beta state. That's the beta wave. So we have gamma waves, beta waves, alpha waves, theta waves, and delta waves of thinking patterns in our brain. This is different levels of activity. And so sleep is on the lower end of the scale. And so unconsciousness is at the very bottom. Theta waves is where we're getting into a little bit more kind of active sleeps, where our dreams are going to be, your fantasies. We'll be kind of in and out of here a little bit. But as we go from sleep to wake, we transition through these. And so there's a really key, and this is why we want to have a good routine about sleep, because we want to use this time very, very well. Our period of being from like asleep to awake and that time frame, what we're thinking about has the most profound impact on our brain. It's the way we can change our habits and our health the most. And so our early morning routine and our before bed routine can really set a lot of the patterns for our lives. And so this is when we want to be thinking about the very purposeful things. This is our goals, this is our families, this is kind of what we want to get done that day. If there's something that you've been brewing on, this is a time to really think and plan that through. Just kind of that in and out of sleep state. And this can be very much health focused. You can say like, hey, I'm coming in and out of this health state. Like, how can I sleep better? How can I do these things better? And just let your brain dwell on these things and then affirm to your body to these things, because then you're going to plant these ideas deep in your subconscious. And so some tools that I've used to really hack this are, oh, you can't see me anymore, are this little dude right here, old school iPod. So I'm not a big electronics in the room, but iPods don't put off much. But if you can get these cool programs that use headphones that will play certain messages into your brain as you're going into these states. And so there's a program called Inner Talk. It was on the screen. You guys can all go there afterwards. This is a great site that lets you kind of purchase programs pretty inexpensively to help retrain your body in certain ways. Everything from sleep to dieting to fitness to learning to dealing with addiction, all kinds of stuff can help rewire your brain. Because this is a really cool time that we can change some of our long-term habits. The next one, YouTube. YouTube, you can get these cool programs as well. You have to use a smartphone for that. And so this is where you're going to be doing it at lunch during the day, not when you're sleeping, because you don't want kind of YouTube in your phone and broadcasting Wi-Fi, but lay down a little bit at night, put those earphones or during at lunch, let that brain just recharge for 20 minutes. You can get into that theta state and help reprogram. Pretty cool. Last one, then I'll go to quick questions and close, is chiropractic care. I hear this all the time in the practice. Doc, I'm sleeping better. This is about 1 to 2 weeks into care. Doc, I'm sleeping better. This is so cool. Or I ask them the question, hey, have you started sleeping better yet? And it's like, actually, yeah, I didn't really sleep bad before, but now I did. The reason why that is we're de-stressing the body. And when we de-stress the body, it's able to go into that sleep state a little bit easier. And so I kind of call that the ultimate brain hack so that we can get to sleep a little better. But I have a couple minutes for questions. And so if you do have a question, just raise your hand. I do only have time for 1 or 2. And so just let me know that. I think I can see everybody now. So if you know where the raise your hand feature is, or wave at me, and I'll let you ask a question, and then we will sign off for the evening. So any questions about sleep, kind of let me have it. No questions. Oh, Rob and Linda. All right, Linda and Rob, what do you got?
When you take medication before bed, you're supposed to take it with something to eat. And if you don't want to eat, what do you do?
So if you need to take medication with food, we just want to don't have a high glycemic index food. So we don't want to have a food that's going to spike our blood sugar. And so if you could eat that with a more longer lasting, kind of more complex starch, or better yet, if you have good fat metabolism, you could have that with maybe a complex starch with a little bit of fat to let that sit in your stomach and be broken down over a long period of time. We just don't want to do things that spike our blood sugar right before bed.
Okay.
Good question, though.
Thank you.
Cool. All right, we got.
So, Darby, can you give them an example of what kind of food that would be?
If you got like a full fat yogurt, would be a common snacky thing. If you had more of a really good fat metabolism, we're gonna get cut off any second, but if you just had a bit of tea with coconut oil in it, that would be kind of my go-to. That's gonna be something for your body to break down for a period of time. So that'd be helpful. I may get with you offline a little bit because I can probably look up some better answers, and it might be dependent on your medication as well too. Okay. Any other hand wavings? Cool. Well, a lot of fun. I think I'm gonna get cut off.